So in my previous video, I advised people not to set New Year's resolutions. People are going to set New Year's resolutions anyway. So I thought, why not add online security? People usually set New Year's resolutions that's related to their physical health, maybe financial goals. Maybe they maybe they have some social goals as well. But I think online security is something that is often overlooked. And so I think it's about time to take your online security a little more seriously. Most people set their password once and then they forget about it until they forget their password and then they have to reset it. I think the start of the year is probably a good time to change your passwords. It might take some effort because everything is online, so you probably will have to make changes to a lot of your online accounts, but it's worth it. And the easiest way to set passwords is to use one password for everything. Most people these days probably don't use 1234 or password as their password. At least I hope people don't, because it's 2024. That should not be a thing. A lot of people, what they do is use something that is meaningful to them so that it's easy to remember. And they add a bunch of other different characters, maybe some numbers, maybe some capital letters, small letters. A lot of the times people do that because the website forces you to do that. Now, one practice which is often quite dangerous is to use one password for everything. Any website where you have an account gets hacked, or if there's a data breach, then your email which you use to log in and your password is exposed. Since a hacker knows your email address, they can log on to your email account and using the password that you've used for some other website. The best case scenario is they lock you out of your account. I know that sounds like a pretty bad thing, but that's actually the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is someone who has access to your email account does nothing but observes what is happening, and then when the time comes, use that information to do something which is much more worse, or at a later time lock you out of your account. What you hear about in the news is a very small fraction of the number of data leaks that actually happen, and it usually happens because someone within the company forces people higher up to release that information. But yeah, it happens way more often than you can think. I've been in the industry, so I know a little bit. Most modern browsers store passwords, gives you the ability to store passwords. And not only that, it allows you to generate a complex string of different characters and numbers and letters. You can do that, and that sounds like a good idea, and it's convenient, right? But that is more like storing lighter fluid and matchbox in the same bag. It's convenient when you're doing a barbecue, but if something does go wrong, it can be a disaster. So the same goes for storing passwords on your internet browser, because your internet browser has access to all the sites that you've visited in the history. Not only that, if you store username and passwords, then it has usernames and password and all the sites that you've been visiting. So if your browser gets compromised, basically the hacker has all the information that they need. And I know there's encryption and all that, but still, why would you take the risk? That's a single point of failure. So the key here is not to store two pieces of information in one single app or one single location. There are services available which lets you store passwords. Some of them are free, some of them charge a monthly fee. There have been data breaches for some of these companies as well. I'm not going to mention any names, but you can look it up. So I'm a bit hesitant to store my passwords on a third-party server. Now you might think, well, everything that you own is pretty much online on other servers, like your email accounts, your social media accounts, even your bank. All that information is on someone else's server. However, the reason I don't store passwords on servers is because, again, it's a single point of failure. All my passwords will be in this one location on someone else's server. And as I mentioned, data breaches happen all the time. What you hear about are maybe a very tiny fraction of what actually goes on. Sometimes companies don't even know that this is happening. Sometimes they do know, but they do not disclose it. So the best method, the best strategy is to store passwords locally, either on your laptop or on your phone. The program that I recommend and the program that I personally use is Keypass. That's Keepass. Now, there are different versions of the program. The one that I use and the one that I do recommend to everyone is Keypass XC. It's multi-platform, so it's available on Linux, Windows, and Mac. There are different versions for Android as well, which is called Keypass. The one that I recommend is Keypass DX. For iOS, there's something called Strongbox, which is compatible with Keypass databases. Now, it might seem like it's a very disjointed program because there's not just one program for all platforms. But if you can move past that, if you can move past the different names, behind the scenes, the database that it uses is the same database, which is cross-compatible with different versions of this app. The way Keypass works is that it stores your passwords locally in a database, which is protected by a master password. And it allows you to generate very complex, strong passwords. You can set requirements, whether you want letters, numbers, different characters. And then once you save it, you can copy the username and password, but it has a time limit. So you can set something like 10 seconds. If that's too low, you can set it to 30 seconds. When you copy the password and paste it on your browser, it is only valid for whatever time period that you set. The one problem that you may run into, since all your passwords are stored locally, is syncing between devices. Since the database is stored locally, one option is to manually go and change all your passwords in all the devices. However, you don't have to do that because there's a program called SyncThing. So the way SyncThing works is it acts like a server on your device, but it only communicates with the devices that you allow. So each device stores its own copy of the password file, and whenever there is a change, it communicates to all other devices. And you can set it so that it only works in very limited settings. What I do is, only if I'm connected to a particular network on my home network, so that way your passwords are not stored on a third-party server. Also, if you say you lose your device or something goes wrong with your device, then there's always a backup of your password database on your other devices. So I would recommend, if you're going to use Keypass, to use at least 2 devices. You can use your phone and a laptop, or a laptop and a tablet. What's next? You've set a strong password with random letters and capital cases, lower cases, numbers, and different characters. And you've set a really long password. What's next? Almost all websites these days offer something called 2FA, or two-factor authentication. The way it works is after you enter your username and password, before you can log in, the website is going to send a code either to your email address or your phone as a text message, or a phone call, or a code that is generated by an authenticator app. Using email as your two-factor authentication method is still better than not having 2FA. However, if your email gets compromised, then the hacker can use your email address to gain access to your account. Just like the whole idea of keeping your keeping lighter fluid and matchbox in the same bag. It may be convenient, but if something does go wrong, it can spell disaster. Text messages to your phone are a little safer, although there are ways to get access to your text messages, but I'm not going to get into that. The other way and the other method that I recommend is a little more secure, is to use an authenticator app, something like a Google Authenticator or a Microsoft Authenticator, and there are other authenticator apps out there as well. So the way it works is when you activate 2FA on a website, you are given a QR code or a string of characters which you can use to enter in your authenticator app, and from then on it will generate a 6 or 8 digit random code which must match with what the website has. So the next time when you go to the website, you'll have to enter your username and password. But then the website is going to ask you for your 2FA code. Remember, it changes every 30 seconds. So now let's imagine that there's a data breach and your password has been leaked. Someone trying to get access to your account will enter your username and password, but now the website is going to ask for a two-factor authentication code, which, remember, changes every 30 seconds. If it doesn't match, then the user still, even though they have your username and password, will not be able to access your account. So using an authenticator app as your two-factor authentication method is a much better, much more secure way to access your account. It might be a little inconvenient. When it comes to options, there's Google Authenticator app and there's Microsoft. There are a bunch of other apps as well. Keypass can also be used as a two-factor authentication method. However, I'm going back to the same thing. Do not store your lighter fluid and matchbox in the same bag. Say, for example, your Keypass database gets compromised. Now the hacker has access to all your username and passwords and your two-factor authentication. So do not use one application for two methods of verification. That's the key point that I'm trying to drill down here. In the future, there will be no passwords because passwords inherently are less secure and more troublesome, very inconvenient if you think about it. You either have to remember all your passwords or you have to store your passwords somewhere, which can then get stolen. There'll be no passwords. You'll be using your phone or some device which you will always have with you, and that will be the only way to access your online accounts. So there'll be no exchange of passwords. But we are not there yet. We still have a long way to go. And until then, I think having a strong password that uses capital letters, small letters, numbers, and different characters, and a very long set of string is going to be a better option, together with two-factor authentication using an authenticator app. So I hope this helps. Thank you for watching. And if you find this information useful, share it with your friends and family, because I think online security is something that is of utmost importance, because everything that we own digitally is online on servers. Thank you for watching, and consider subscribing if you find this video useful. Peace.